My car was slipping on black ice, and sitting in the passenger seat was the one person I had spent the last 3 years trying to avoid. My work rival. The woman who challenged every idea I ever presented, questioned every decision I made, and somehow always managed to outperform me when it mattered most. As the storm trapped us in the middle of nowhere, I believed surviving the blizzard would be the hardest part. I had no idea that what she whispered before dawn would change everything I believed about love, forgiveness, and the lies people hide behind every single day. Before we begin, if you believe kindness is stronger than pride and everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes in hope, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories that stay with you long after they end. The annual company leadership retreat had been supposed to last only one afternoon. Management gathered everyone in a mountain resort to discuss future projects, celebrate achievements, and encourage teamwork. Ironically, the person assigned to travel back with me was Olivia. Nobody questioned the arrangement because everyone assumed we were professionals. They didn't know that every meeting between us felt like walking into battle. Olivia was brilliant. Confident. Calm under pressure. She never raised her voice, never lost her temper, and somehow always dismantled my presentations with polite questions that exposed every weakness. The promotions I missed seemed to find their way to her desk instead. Every success of hers felt like another reminder that I wasn't good enough. Over time, competition turned into resentment. At least that's what I believed. When the weather forecast warned about possible snow, nobody seemed worried. The drive back to the city normally took less than 3 hours. Then the storm arrived almost instantly. Visibility vanished. Traffic stopped. Several cars slid off the road ahead. Eventually the highway closed completely, forcing everyone toward smaller mountain roads that quickly became impassable. After another frightening hour, we reached an old wooden cabin owned by the resort, where stranded travelers were being directed until emergency crews could clear the roads. The caretaker handed us blankets, firewood, canned food, and apologized. "There aren't enough cabins left," he explained. "You'll have to share this one tonight." Neither of us argued. Nature had already won. The cabin felt frozen when we stepped inside. The fireplace hadn't been used for weeks. Dust covered the shelves. A single lantern filled the room with warm golden light while snow hammered against the windows with frightening force. For a while we barely spoke. She unpacked supplies. I struggled to start the fire. Eventually flames began dancing inside the stone fireplace, slowly pushing back the cold. Hours passed in uncomfortable silence. Outside, the storm grew louder. Inside, every crack of burning wood reminded me how trapped we really were. Without Wi-Fi, phone service, or laptops that could hold battery forever, work suddenly stopped existing. There were no meetings. No deadlines. No presentations. Just two people sitting across from each other with nowhere to go. For the first time in years, I noticed things about Olivia that had nothing to do with the office. She looked exhausted. Not physically tired. Emotionally. The confident smile she wore every weekday was gone. Dark circles rested beneath her eyes. She stared into the fire as though searching for something she'd lost a long time ago. I wondered if she'd always looked that way and I had simply never cared enough to notice. Eventually she laughed quietly after catching me looking. She admitted that the silence was becoming unbearable. I surprised myself by agreeing. Conversation started awkwardly. First about the weather. Then about work. Then about childhood memories. The hours slipped by without either of us realizing. She grew up in a small farming town where winters often buried houses beneath snow. Her father repaired tractors. Her mother worked double shifts at the local hospital. Nothing had ever been handed to her. Every scholarship. Every internship. Every promotion. She earned them all. Listening to her story, I realized how little I actually knew about the person I had convinced myself was my enemy. She finally asked about me. I admitted that after losing my father unexpectedly several years earlier, I threw myself into work because staying busy hurt less than grieving. Success became the only language I understood. Winning became survival. Losing felt unbearable because it reminded me of every other loss I couldn't control. She didn't interrupt. She simply listened. Nobody at work had ever listened like that. Late that evening, while snow buried the cabin almost to its windows, we shared canned soup beside the fireplace. The warmth finally reached the room. For the first time since meeting her, I laughed without wondering whether she was secretly judging me. She laughed too. It sounded different than it did in meetings. Freer. Real. Then something unexpected happened. The power generator failed. Darkness swallowed everything except the fire. The temperature immediately began dropping again. To stay warm, we pulled our chairs closer to the fireplace. Outside, wind screamed through the trees like something alive. The cabin creaked beneath the weight of accumulating snow. It felt strangely isolated from the rest of the world. Hours later I woke suddenly. The fire had nearly died. Olivia sat awake, staring through the window into the endless white night. She looked like someone carrying far more weight than anyone could see. Without looking at me, she quietly admitted she'd never liked snowstorms. Not because of the cold. Because they reminded her how quickly life could trap people without warning. There was something in her voice that sounded heartbreakingly familiar. Fear. Real fear. As dawn approached, the silence between us no longer felt uncomfortable. It felt safe. Then she turned toward me. Her eyes shimmered in the firelight. Barely above a whisper, she said there had been something she'd wanted to tell me for a very long time. Everything inside me froze. For years I imagined countless arguments with Olivia. I expected criticism. Another challenge. Another competition. Instead, what came next shattered every assumption I'd carried. She confessed that she had never considered me her rival. Not once. From the day I joined the company, she'd admired my creativity. She believed I saw possibilities other people ignored. Whenever she questioned my ideas during meetings, it wasn't to embarrass me. She genuinely wanted to strengthen them because she knew leadership often dismissed bold ideas too quickly. She admitted she always expected me to argue back. Instead, every conversation ended with me growing colder toward her. Eventually she stopped trying to explain. She simply accepted that I disliked her. Hearing those words felt like watching years of misunderstandings collapse all at once. Then she revealed something even more painful. Months earlier she discovered she was caring for her mother, whose health had been quietly declining. Hospital visits filled her evenings. Medical bills consumed her savings. The reason she stayed late at work wasn't ambition. It was necessity. She couldn't afford to lose her position. Suddenly every assumption I'd made about her success looked shamefully incomplete. I remembered every jealous thought. Every sarcastic remark. Every moment I secretly hoped she'd fail. She had been carrying invisible burdens while I viewed her only as an obstacle. The realization hurt. More than losing any promotion ever could. She smiled sadly before admitting there was one final truth. She confessed that somewhere along the way, despite all the misunderstandings, she'd begun caring about me. Not because we competed. Because beneath my stubbornness she saw someone hurting just as deeply as she was. She never expected anything in return. She simply couldn't keep pretending if this storm turned out to be the last chapter either of us ever experienced. No dramatic music played. No impossible coincidence interrupted the moment. Just silence. Snow. Firelight. Two people finally seeing each other honestly. I couldn't answer immediately. Not because I didn't feel something. Because regret had stolen every word. Morning finally arrived with clear skies. Rescue crews reached the cabin shortly after sunrise. Roads slowly reopened. The outside world returned exactly as we'd left it. Emails flooded our phones. Meetings resumed. Deadlines returned. Yet something fundamental had changed. Back at the office, people immediately noticed we no longer argued during presentations. Instead, we challenged ideas together. We became partners rather than opponents. Projects improved. The atmosphere around our team changed. Others began collaborating instead of competing. Months later, our company launched its most successful initiative in years. Management praised our teamwork. Ironically, the promotion both of us had chased was offered jointly as leadership of a new division. Neither of us cared nearly as much about the title anymore. The greatest reward had already arrived inside that snow-covered cabin. Trust. Outside work, our friendship grew naturally. There were no grand romantic gestures. No rushed fairy tale ending. Healing happened slowly. Some evenings we simply walked through quiet parks talking about everything we'd hidden from the world. Other days we visited Olivia's mother together after her treatments. Sometimes we sat in comfortable silence, discovering that peace often says more than words ever can. One winter evening, exactly 1 year after the storm, snow began falling again. Instead of fear, we felt gratitude. Because without that impossible night, we might have spent our entire lives believing a lie about each other. I eventually realized that the people we call rivals often become mirrors reflecting our own insecurities. The battles we fight inside ourselves are usually much larger than the ones happening around us. Pride had blinded me. Assumptions had isolated me. Kindness finally opened the door that competition had kept locked for years. Whenever someone new joined our department, Olivia and I made one promise together. Never judge someone's story before you've taken the time to hear it. Because everyone is fighting storms nobody else can see. Some happen inside hospital rooms. Some happen after losing family. Some happen behind confident smiles in office meetings. And some happen deep inside hearts longing to be understood. If there is one lesson that snowy night taught me, it is this. Life rarely changes because circumstances become perfect. It changes because people choose honesty over pride. Understanding over assumptions. Compassion over winning. Before we reach the ending, I have one special request. Please leave a comment telling us about a misunderstanding in your life that was eventually healed through honesty or forgiveness. Your story might give hope to someone reading the comments today. Years have passed since that unforgettable storm. Whenever winter returns, I still remember the sound of snow striking those cabin windows and the quiet voice that changed everything. I've wanted to tell you something. Those simple words reminded me that the greatest opportunities in life don't always arrive as promotions, awards, or victories. Sometimes they arrive disguised as interruptions. As delays. As storms. As moments that force us to stop running long enough to truly see another human being.